Welcome to Yadda Yadda. I'm so glad you could join us this evening. It's another Monday night, and you know, you've just finished your Monday, and Mondays sometimes aren't a lot of fun, but you know, I hope that that you have started your week well, and I have with me this evening Dr. Peter Butler from Gulf Coast Plastic Surgery, and I'm so glad you're here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Yes,
looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Now, we were just talking a little bit about, you know, things going on and you know, what to do this summer, and we've seen some movies, and you saw Star Trek.
We did. Actually, it was yesterday. My wife and I took our kids to see Star Trek, and it was a blast. A lot of fun. For those of us who grew up with the Star Trek series, it was a lot of fun to see. It's like when they cast the movie, it seems like they picked people who really did look like the original characters, like a young version of them.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, and for those of us, again, who saw this series, it was fun to hear all the references to the early
Now, did you
show.
have any, did your kids have any idea of the whole, you know, the history of Star Trek? So they don't know that there's been, like, you know, the original Star Trek, and then the, you know, the second Star Trek and the third Star Trek, and you know,
exactly. No, I mean, they know the whole Star Wars series because we have all those movies at home, but the whole Star Trek series is totally new to them. And it was good. They actually started with this one. It's kind of the prequel, if you will. And show them the earlier ones, which are later in their lives.
I really did enjoy the Star Trek movie. It was really great. I've usually always enjoyed those types of movies. And and you know, did you know that Ron Howard's son played Chekhov?
I did not know that.
Yes, Ron
Great
Howard's
accent.
son. Yeah, it is, yes. What is it? It's so funny. It's like, what is he trying to do? And then he was also in Terminator.
I've not seen that yet.
He was one of the main characters in Terminator.
Wow.
And very talented young man. He actually did a better acting job in Terminator than he did in Star Trek.
Oh, okay.
But you know, it must be a lot of fun to be at their house, you know.
I'm guessing. I'm guessing a lot of history there.
Yeah, and then you know, his dad did Angels and Demons. You know, he produced or directed that. Yes. And we saw that as well. And Angels and Demons, I'd say, of the three movies, was number 3. It got a little tedious. Did you read any of the books?
I did, but it's been probably right when the book came out. I read it.
Yeah. That's the same
book.
way we were. And we actually could not remember the book. It was like, what was that book about? And we saw some crazy program on, like the night before we were going to go see the movie, and it was like explaining it all. And so we watched that, and we knew that was the movie that we had to go see that night before we forgot all this stuff again. And we saw the first one, the Da Vinci Code.
Right.
And that was very much a wow, you know, wow. And then after that, you had the takeoff movies, you know, like National Treasure and some other ones, and everyone was going, oh wow, symbology and you know, secret societies, and oh, so cool. And you know, I've been Rotary for years, so I really didn't think anything about it. But anyway, it was Angels and Demons was an interesting movie, but I would not say that it was my favorite for the summer. I would say that for an older audience who is familiar with the Terminator series and can handle the violence, you know, because there's a lot of really graphic and very sci-fi stuff going on. I would say go for that one, but I think Star Trek is a great family film. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we enjoyed it. My kids are still a little young for Terminator, so I'll have to catch that one with the guys one evening.
Yeah, and you need to see it on the big screen though, because the effects are really incredible.
Oh, I'm sure.
And you know, they were running the old Terminator movies the past week or so, and so we caught one of those. And when you looked at the first Terminator movie and you saw Arnold, oh my God, he's a baby! He's a baby!
And I could be governor.
And I have to tell you, they recreate Arnold.
Really?
In this new one.
A computer-generated version of Arnold, or
it has to be. Otherwise, he must have been living in your office for the past month, because I mean, he was like perfection. I mean, it was amazing.
It's computer generated.
If that's what computer generated can do, I think you're in jeopardy.
You're right. Send a hologram to work tomorrow.
Send a hologram to work. Wonderful. It's better than Match.com. Just,
That's it. That's it. This is me.
Listen, we got to take a break.
Okay.
And when we get back, we're going to be talking to Dr. Butler about different ways to do Botox and what's real and what's not real, and also about having your expectations too high. And so we want you to stay with us, and we'll be right back.
Great.
Welcome back to Yadda Yadda, and I have Dr. Peter Butler sitting right here on the sofa with me. And I don't know if you picked up your most recent edition of the Independent News, but they have their power list for 2009. So
I'm sure I'm at the top of the list, right?
I know. No, actually, they have the top 50. I'm sure you were 52 because I was 51.
That's right. That's right. I'm sure I just missed it.
You just missed it. But it's always fun to look at this. Granted, usually the names are pretty much the same on these lists.
Right.
But I was very proud of Dee Ritchie's on the list.
Right. I see her right there.
And she's
25.
Yes, number 25. It's a good spot right there in the middle. I'm very proud of you. And you're actually in between the other two Ritchies, which we will go with that. That's you go, girl. And it's really nice when you can see names that you do recognize, and because we do have some pretty strong leaders in our community. Sometimes we don't give them a lot of credit, and we say that Pensacola has no leadership, but we really do have some people that have some very strong commitment to our community.
Oh, I agree.
And I'm not sure why we can't get things done, but we do have some good people here. But anyway, if you haven't picked it up, please do, because it's always fun to read about who are the most influential people and the most powerful people in Pensacola. So let's talk about Botox.
Oh, golly, okay.
Oh, yes. So what's new in the world of Botox?
Wow. Well, what you had mentioned to me before is there was I guess in the April 2009 issue of Marie Claire.
Yes.
There's an interesting article that talks about some known and not so known uses of Botox.
Well, I saw this article and I was like, what are they talking about? And they're talking about Botox. You can basically give yourself a nose job with Botox. You can give yourself refined cleavage and perky breasts with Botox.
Right.
I mean, how much of this stuff is real?
Well, in reality, there are the common applications of Botox, of which we're all aware. We have the usual injections to take care of the lines across the forehead, the scowl lines between the eyes, and the crow's feet. Those are the most common. Other well-known but less common uses are injections around the mouth to affect the smile or to affect how much lip is showing.
They said that, I'm not sure if I read it in that article or if I heard it from somewhere else, but they said that as we get older, sometimes our smile muscles get too strong. They actually, and that's why you get this, like I get these lines right here because my mouth goes,
Exactly, and there are quite a number of different muscles that act on the mouth and act on the smile, and by putting to rest temporarily with Botox some of those muscles, you can affect the action on the mouth and get more lip show if you want to have bigger looking lips, or in one case you can actually have a little less gum showing. If some people have a smile that has a little more gum showing than others, you can affect that. The downside of all these injections is that you affect animation. Yeah. And sometimes you may have a less than natural looking smile or less than natural animation. And so there's always, there may be a downside to some of these different methods. And some are just downright kind of crazy. When they talk about in this article about perky breasts and refining the cleavage.
Like I want to have Botox injected in my breasts. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's stretching it a bit.
Yeah.
Most of these mention Botox used in conjunction with other treatments. For example, for the refined cleavage, they talk about using a laser to resurface the skin between the breasts to take care of the sun damage and the wrinkles there.
Yeah.
But using Botox in addition, and you can't help but wonder, are they just kind of padding the bill, adding a little Botox to it, thinking, that they're doing something? But I'm not really sure what the physiology is behind that treatment.
Right. I think that what this says is don't believe everything you read in these magazines.
And that's exactly, and you hit the nail on the head there, because the beauty press and the Today shows and Oprahs and all that are such a common vehicle for the latest, greatest news in plastic surgery or cosmetic surgery. And the reality is that the manufacturers of the various products and the various lasers and the latest markets, or the latest whiz-bang items in the market, are paying to have their products featured in these media, when in fact most of them have not been proven to work.
Right.
I mean, claims of FDA approved does not mean this is going to work. This means that the FDA has said, okay, this won't harm you.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's going to work.
Right.
There have been a long list of items that don't work well that are FDA approved, and so it's still buyer beware. If it sounds too good to be true, most of the time it is. Most reputable plastic surgeons will wait until they know something is going to work before they introduce it to their patients, because we want to make sure we're doing the right thing by the patients.
Right.
Just because it's the latest and greatest and Oprah had it on and it was on the Today show doesn't really mean it works.
Well, Oprah's been getting in a lot of trouble lately. She's had, I don't know personally, of course, but I've read, that she's had people who've written books who really didn't write the books or wrote different things in the and there was something going on with Miley Cyrus. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, I think she got her mad. So
don't get Miley mad.
Don't get Miley mad now. She'll send that Hannah Montana girl after you.
That's it.
But it is kind of interesting because you do get kind of swept away with all the media hype, and as the population is aging and we're trying to hang on to our youth as long as we can.
Sure.
And yet we still it's like, okay, you don't want to look totally different than you do. You don't you don't want to be Kenny Rogers. You don't want to be Kenny Rogers.
Right.
And but there are some other procedures that you see that people have had. They're like, oh wow, that looks really good. And you
definitely.
How do you know how it's going to turn out?
Well, that's a great question. I think the best thing to do is do your homework. Look for a surgeon who is experienced, who has a good reputation. Ask around. Make sure they're board certified, but not just. Here's the trick: make sure they're not just board certified without saying in what they're board certified. There are a lot of cosmetic surgeons out there who are not plastic surgeons.
Right.
And I'm not trying to belittle any specialty because they're all well trained in their specialties.
Sure.
But let's just say a family practitioner who's a good family practitioner who decides they're going to do cosmetic surgery can claim, I'm a board certified cosmetic surgeon, mainly because there's really no board of cosmetic surgery. But they're board certified in family practice.
Ooh.
So there's a lot of little fine lines you have to look through. So the safest thing to do is say, look for a good board certified plastic surgeon, someone who's certified by the American Board of Plastic Surgery, or there are several other surgeons or specialties that are recognized by the American Board of Medical Specialists. These are all very well regarded boards that have very stringent criteria for board certification. And again, most of us are going to take the time because of our reputation to make sure we're doing what's right for the patient.
Right. Now, how long have you been practicing?
9 years.
9 years.
Yeah, after a zillion years of training.
Yeah.
Actually, well, after 4 years of med school, 7 years of residency, I've been practicing for 9 years after that.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm not getting any younger.
Well, you look great.
I'm actually 92. Thank you.
Gotta like that.
That's right.
It's all good. It's all good. Well, we have to take a break, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some other procedures and things that Dr. Butler is so familiar with. So stay with us. We'll be right back. I'm sitting right here with Dr. Peter Butler, and we've been talking about all kinds of things tonight.
That's fun stuff. I agree.
Yes, I have to tell you that I went on your website recently, and I was looking at some of the before and after shots that you have on for various procedures, and primarily the necks.
Right.
Oh my goodness, you guys! It's amazing what the difference that makes in a woman.
It's fun stuff. Yeah.
I had no idea. I mean, and I was going, God, do I know her? You know, what's that next one? Do I know her? But they look really good.
Thank you. No, thanks. And what's surprising to a lot of people is a lot of people have the misconception that getting a facelift makes them look unnatural, because they'll see, you know, you mentioned Kenny Rogers earlier. They'll see some of these Hollywood stars on TV and who look not very natural.
Right.
And
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, and they'll conclude therefore that any facelift's going to be unnatural. In reality, a well-done facelift is going to look exceedingly natural the first, first one or two times they have a facelift. What we're seeing when you see Kenny Rogers, Burt Reynolds, some of these people that have had a bad facelift, in reality, they've probably had 3 or 4 good facelifts before that you never noticed because they were well done. We're seeing the 4th, 5th, or 6th facelift in these people, and the best surgeons in the world cannot make a 4th, 5th, or 6th facelift look very natural.
Why are people doing that?
The pressure to look young. I mean,
really?
And I don't know for sure. Of course, there's no proof here, but I would almost guarantee that a lot of the Hollywood stars started having facelifts at a pretty young age, probably in their late 30s, early 40s.
Really?
And they're probably having them every 5 to 7 years to try and stay looking young.
I think that all the young girls are doing that under eyelid thing, because you have these women that are 40, like the young 40s, and I don't care what kind of genes you have and what kind of creams you're using, you're going to have a little bit of this going on. And I think that they're doing that where they go in and take out a little bit of that inside the eyelid thing.
Right, to get rid of the bags?
Yeah.
Sure.
I think
that's a pretty common one.
That's my guess.
That's one of the most common surgeries, to look more rested, more alert.
Right, and they do. I mean, they look great. And I think that it's just one of those maintenance things, that people can do.
It really is. I mean, we preach all along that as far as maintenance goes, we try and go with the non-surgical stuff as long as we can. The Botox, the Juvederm, the Restylane, those products, the injectable products, to try and stave off or delay the need for surgery. But when it's time for surgery, it's time.
Yeah.
And it's certainly easy to get a good natural result, without having the too tight or windswept look everyone worries about.
Right. Where your eyes are going
exactly,
back.
Caught in the wind tunnel. Exactly.
Oh, that's too funny. Is there any procedure that you see is like the most popular that? Well,
the most popular, especially in this town and a beach town, is breast augmentation.
Yeah.
And it's seasonal too. Springtime, summertime. Look out! They're coming out of the woodwork. But everyone's getting ready for the bathing suit. But It's the most popular cosmetic surgery done in the U.S.
Really?
Yeah. For the last couple of years, it's been the most popular. Some years liposuction will jump past it, really depending upon trends and what news has to say about these things.
And that's another thing that's really been refined over the past 10 years, I'd say, is the liposuction. Smaller, whatever they call those things.
Cannulas, yeah.
Cannulas, and it doesn't appear that you hear as many negative stories about it as you used to.
Yeah, and the negative stories really were centered on several years back. There were a lot of injuries and deaths with regard to really unqualified people doing liposuction, and then also doing high volume liposuction. There's an amount of fat on the average person that's removed in and out. You're taking serious risks. And the state of Florida in particular really cracked down on that, on in-office surgeries, and so they've done a great job of policing that and kind of reining that back in. That being said, yeah, you're correct. There have been a lot of recent newsworthy, I guess, liposuction releases, news releases or media releases, but in reality, there have been no huge advances. A lot of the stuff they're saying is new and great and all that is really a twist on old stuff.
It's more marketing than,
like we talked about earlier, if it sounds too good to be true, sometimes it is. There have been a few things. I'll give you an example. The LipoDissolve.
Yeah, what is LipoDissolve?
LipoDissolve has been around for decades in Europe. Over there it was called mesotherapy.
Mesotherapy. Is that like miso soup?
Just about. It's injecting basically an irritant into the fat under the skin to basically cause the fat to die. And then your body absorbs that fat, and gradually you lose a little bit of volume.
Yeah.
What they don't tell you is that when you add up the number of injections it takes to achieve some type of result, it's the same price as liposuction is surgically. It's quite painful. It takes a long time to get the result, and the results aren't that predictable as far as contour goes.
So gosh, they make it all sound so easy. It's like, you just go in.
That's what advertising and marketing is. It's a sale.
Yeah, I was in that business for a long time, the advertising and marketing stuff.
You won't find any plastic surgeons in town that do that. I'll add you that.
Okay, no plastic surgeons.
No reputable plastic surgeons.
No reputable plastic surgeons will do LipoDissolve. So who does LipoDissolve?
Without naming names, I think it's done in one of the medical spas here in town, supervised by another physician. Is
it a medical procedure?
Technically it is, yes.
Yeah.
It is. It's an injection. By definition, it's a medical procedure. It has to be supervised by a physician. It may not be injected by a physician, but it has to be supervised by the physician.
Right. Well, some people will say that they did that and they felt like they got a result or a good result.
Yeah.
And a lot of it can be really, what you think.
That's very true. I think you can get a small correction reasonably well in the right hands. And if that's the case, it might be a good choice. But for most people that I see for liposuction, it'd be very challenging to get the kind of result we need to get using that method.
Yeah.
And there's some other things. I mean, there's a liposuction technique offered by a chiropractor in town here that there's.
Wait a minute, a chiropractor doing liposuction? They can't do that.
Well, you're correct. He can. They're not licensed to make any incisions, but there's some type of machine that they're claiming that will melt the fat through the skin to achieve a result. And again, if you look at the before and after photos in the ad, well,
that would hurt.
I think it's using some type of ultrasound or something. But again, the claims made based on the photographs in the ad are seemingly far-fetched.
Yeah.
And so I'm not trying to, I'm not naming any names, of course, but if it sounds too good to be true, do your homework. Check and see if there's any scientific evidence for good results.
How are you going to be able to, how is someone going to go and find out if they're getting good scientific results?
Surgery.org is the website for the American Society of Plastic Surgeons.
Okay.
Plasticsurgery.org, I believe, is another one. In other words, go to a reputable, unbiased website, and you'll find a lot of great information there. Obviously, don't go to the manufacturer's website because it'll sound like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But go to an unbiased, reputable, and I always recommend the American Board of Plastic Surgeons, or American Society of Plastic Surgeons, American Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgery also are two great resources that have a lot of information, and they specifically mention a lot of these different methods that may not be proven.
Very good. That is very interesting. Now, is there anything new that you guys are doing? Do you have any new services that you're offering?
Well, the latest thing is our weight loss clinic. That's staffed by Dr. Shannon Scheifler.
Very nice.
And that's been up and running now for, I think, 3 or 4 months, and it's rocking.
That's wonderful.
It's going,
Men and women?
Yes, yes. Myself included. I'm
no way.
I'm a patient, yeah.
Oh, wait, you're trying to lose some weight, or you have lost some weight? Or?
Have lost a few, going for a few more.
And how much have you lost?
Lost 9 pounds already in the last about 4 or 5 weeks.
That is 9 pounds in 4 or 5 weeks.
It's the slow approach. Well, you keep handing this wine. I'm not going to be on the strict diet here. That's the problem.
I think the slow approach is the best way
Usually
to do
it
it.
is.
So, what is your goal?
Another probably 10 pounds. I'll be close to it.
Wow!
I'm trying to get back to basically my med school weight. I can't quite get to college weight. That's a little crazy, but if I can get to med school weight, I'll be okay.
Well, so is this a diet thing or diet and exercise, or
it's always diet and exercise.
Hypnosis?
We just tape your mouth shut. No, I'm kidding. It's a combination of diet and exercise, of course, behavior modification. Additionally,
no more of this.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be surprised how little you can eat with your hands cuffed.
Well, listen, we're wrapping up.
Okay.
But so if you want to lose weight, and
come stop by and see us. You bet.
All kinds of stuff you guys are doing. That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Wonderful show.
It's been a blast.
And we'll see you again next week for more Yadda Yadda. And aren't you glad I didn't sing tonight?
I know I am.
Last week I